WVLQ 88.1 FM.
Now it's time for Free Speech with Bob Madden.
And good morning. This is Bob Madden with a new program that we're just inaugurating, and we're calling it Free Speech primarily because you can talk about anything you want to talk about, and we can have any kind of point of view that you might have. My orientation basically is going to be to bring things of interest to your attention, and we want you to give us a call at 322-9091. Let us know how you feel about things. The other day I was looking in the paper, and I was noticing the sort of the fight that's going on in Charlestown regarding trees on people's personal property. And I see that there are people in Charlestown that would like to see legislation to tell you what kind of trees and how many and where they can stand and how tall they can be on your personal property as to whether or not you can cut them down. We'd really like to know what your point of view is on this. If you'd like to give us a call at 322-9091. Do you think that that anybody on the street should be able to tell you how to decorate your property, or how to undecorate it, or how to landscape it or unlandscape it? Do you think that people should be able to get together and dictate to you what color to paint your house, or what brand of car you should buy and put in the driveway? You think that's right? Let me know. 322-9091. We're also got the same basic question that seems to be prevalent today, and this is the question on Walmart's pollution. I say Walmart's pollution, and that is because a lot of people have the point of view that Walmart's new addition would mean pollution in the way of noise, air pollution, sound pollution, which would then inhibit the neighbors and keep them from being able to enjoy their property. What do you think? You think that Walmart should be kept from expanding? We'd like to know. 322-9091. Kind of important questions we've got to deal with these days. And the reason that the reason that they're important, even though you may not live next to Walmart and even though you may not have trees in Charlestown, is who gets to tell who how to live? That's kind of interesting. It seems that it's getting more and more as to the people who have a little power can tell the people who don't have a little power how to live. Or is that new? I guess not. We have a guest today. The guest today is Hal Shurtleff. And Hal Shurtleff is the New England coordinator for the John Birch Society. And just to sort of to lead in here, I'm going to hit Harold cold with a couple of straight up questions, because years ago when I first heard of the John Birch Society, the mental image that I was given and the point of view that was put into my mind was that the John Birch Society was a bunch of militant dudes that slept with shotguns and sort of slept with one eye open, and that you had to be careful because if somebody announced himself as a bircher, you need to be careful what you said in front of them because they might get mad at you. Is that the way the John Birch Society is, Harold?
Well, first off, I want to thank you for having me on again. I've been a guest on a previous show of yours several years ago. And no, that's a stereotype that is fostered upon the American people as it's not so much the Birch Society, it's an ideology. Do you believe in limited government? Do you believe in the concept of freedom? And if you do, you must be demonized because your views can be contagious. And before you know it, people will start asking the right questions, asking those elected officials the right questions, and jeopardizing their power structure. So instead of...
You're trying to say that you have intentionally been, you said demonized.
Demonized, that's the right word. And I'll give an example of it. I picked up my paper. I live up in Boston. Picked it up this morning before I came down here. And a columnist by the name of Jack Williams, also a TV anchorman and sometimes fills in as a radio show on WBZ, which is a very powerful station up there in the area. He hates the idea of free people owning weapons. And he uses the emotional appeal, of course, some of the tragedies, some of the shootings. And then he said, only those who support it, those are the fringe people who think keeping us safe from the UN, So he tries to ridicule and demonize those who are trying to preserve a very important aspect of our freedom and our Constitution.
Which aspect is that?
Would be the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. And so the question of demonizing, you read the article, and first you get emotional, and then you see, oh, but the only people who make an argument against Jack Williams are those kooks. You see, that's the image that he wants to have. So when our message is articulated, those who don't like our message will say, yeah, well, this guy's got a shotgun, and he's a tobacco chewer, and he's a yahoo, and so forth.
Crew cut.
He's got a crew cut, yes, right. Yeah, so,
and a tattoo.
And so if they do, good. We don't mind people with tattoos and crew cuts. There's a lot of good Americans out there that are very decent people, and we're very glad to have them on board. But we have a cross-section of people in our organization, and of course the left is always celebrating diversity. Diversity. We like to think that we have diversity as far as ethnic groups and religious groups, but we have something in common. It's called our Constitution, our freedom, and that's what we very, very much cherish. We have people from all walks of life. We have lawyers, we have bankers, we have cab drivers, we have ditch diggers, we have postal workers, and I happen to be a former postal worker. We have doctors, electricians. So we have housewives, and we have corporate executives.
Well, they belong to this. So we've got an organization here of a diverse bunch of people who apparently share a common view, and that common view could be summed up as.
Well, the view of we can summed up in our motto: less government, more responsibility, and with God's help, a better world. That's basically it.
I said something about less government to a guy the other day, and he said, "Oh my God, chaos."
Chaos, yeah.
Chaos. Less government means chaos.
Yeah.
You think that's true?
No, I think that man has been conditioned to accept that nonsense, that more government is good. And you look at what big government has done around the world. Look at China, look at Eastern Europe, look at Western Europe, look at the socialized medicine falling apart in Western Europe, look at Canada. These are signs of total government or big government. You look at some things here, Waco, for example, and whether or not you might agree that it was deliberate or what was a cover-up, it's nothing but big government out of control.
We could spend an hour
at the very least, big government out of control. A small amount of government would never have such a ugly horror performed.
You mean the government has gotten so big that it's easy for really non-patriotic people to hide underneath the feathers of this big government?
I would say so. In fact, the founder of the John Birch Society, Robert Welch, once said that he would rather have, he gave a speech before the JBS was founded in the mid-50s to a university down in Pennsylvania, and he said something like this. He said he'd rather have 500,000 people in government, every one of them a thief, than 2 million people, honest people in government, every one of them an honest man. The former would only steal from it, the latter would eventually destroy it.
Uh-huh.
In other words, you have a lot of people in government who think that the world would stop if they didn't perform their functions. They are very dedicated people and probably decent people, but they're government bureaucrats.
I see.
And they're stifling freedom.
And so you feel that this is like an undertow that's unseen.
Well,
and is this the message, or is this the thing that the John Birch Society exists for? Is to
well, that we exist. One thing, for first thing, we're founded as an educational organization. So we need to inform people, educate them about what.
You're not a militant group?
No, not at all. Well, I guess it depends on what you define militancy. If you believe the Constitution was written in English and made to be adhered to, then some people call you a radical militant. Why? Because you're nothing but expressing views. We believe in everything we do is peaceful.
Let me go over that again here. Oh, hold it. Let's not go by that one.
All right.
All right. If you believe that the Constitution was written in English and made to be adhered to,
right.
In other words, the Constitution is a basic law in effect. It's a form. We have a caller. Let's postpone that for just a second. Let's talk to our caller. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, gentlemen. First of all, let me say one thing. It's a pity because the American people have got one thing in their mind now, and that's the big dollar sign. They're forgetting the things that really are important, like our elements.
But you got to have a dollar. You can't live without a dollar.
Let me finish, please.
Sure.
What I'm trying to say is this. We do need the dollar, yes. But everything today is big money, big deals, big corporations getting together. But we're forgetting one thing, the environment. cutting down of the trees. We were told when we went to school, and I'm a veteran now, cutting down the trees, we learned a long time ago, at early school age, they stopped floods. They were a place for the birds to migrate, birds to rest. The birds killed the bugs. The birds were there for food for the early settlers. We forget that the beavers caused dams. We forget that we had lumber companies. But for every tree that was cut down, there was a tree planted. We forget, yes, the Constitution was written by. We needed guidelines. It needs guidelines. And I believe firmly in the Constitution. Forget that the Constitution was ever written. There was even talk sometime that they want to amend things in the Constitution. I'm an American first. I believe in America. But I don't like what they're doing to us. They're taking away our rights.
Who's they?
Pardon me?
Who's they? You say they are doing these things. Who is they?
The people that feel that they are in power. They are in power for a very short time. I can use Janet Reno as an example. Right now, I truly don't know enough about it, but she seems to be the fall guy for everything that happened at Waco. That's just an example, one mild example.
Well, she's the head of the Justice Department. It was her operation. She said she assumes full responsibility, so she should be the fall guy.
Yes, sir, I do agree with you on that. But supposing, and I'm saying supposing, and I have no complete concrete words that this is a truth, but supposing that the other people, the FBI or the CIA or whatever, did go in there and did use other things other than just tear gas. That's, again, supposing. We do not know, sir.
No, we do know. We do know because we have their own videos that show a Delta Force firing at people running out of the building. They show the Bradley tank vehicles going in there. They show canisters being fired. So we do know. We knew this 6 years ago.
I felt that too, sir. I did. I felt that. I mean, I didn't agree with Waco and some of their principles, but they had no right to be fired on and innocent people killed.
You're right.
There's one thing that you're not thinking about, sir. Most of these people had gunshot wounds.
Most of the Branch Davidians had gunshot wounds?
The people that were in the building had gunshot wounds, sir.
They'd been shot.
Yes, sir.
You know, what they found was bodies that were incinerated, and they found most of the children in what was their little shelter there.
Yeah.
Because they were escaping the gas. See, when you have fire and you have tear gas, you have cyanide. You produce cyanide. So they died a very horrible death that was promoted by our government in the name of saving the children. So this is typical. Now, I don't agree with David Koresh's views, but this Branch Davidian group had been in operation since the 30s. David Koresh had one charge against him prior to this. He turned himself in. The charge was adjudicated. Charges were dropped.
Yes, sir.
There was no reason to go in there with 100+ heavily armed ATF agents on a Sunday morning. They could have got this guy, and they knew he was a volatile character. They could have got him while he was out jogging, while he was doing business in town. But no, the ATF had to show its heavy hand and assault this compound, or this religious group, this church group.
Who was in charge? Who made the decision to assault?
I agree with you, sir. But this is what I like about this program. We can express our views.
That's what you're here for.
But important that views should be based on facts and truth. Yes. Not how we feel and but the truth. And I'm telling you some facts. I'm not just giving you my opinion or I'm giving you what I feel. I'm telling you what the facts are.
And I'm agreeing with you. The fact still remains, yes, this guy could have been taken as a cult leader, as a bad example, or a breaking war in a way.
It's not necessarily against the law to be a cult leader, whatever a cult is, and everyone has a different definition of a cult.
It's a matter of freedom of religion, I believe.
If David Koresh was breaking a law, then fine. Or he was a charge of a crime, and serve a warrant on him the way anyone else serves a warrant. If you had a warrant against you, would you want 100 local police kicking down your door and throwing tear gas at you? No. You served with the warrant, okay? If you're not going to come out, then you break the law.
Right.
But, okay, then it was an argument, this nonsense that there was some child abuse going on. Well, of course, that's an emotional thing. Child abuse is not a prerogative of the ATF or Janet Reno. That's a prerogative of that local police in Waco, or the county of Waco, whatever county that is in Texas. It's not the ATF's jurisdiction. The ATF was founded for a particular reason, to uphold federal laws, most of which are unconstitutional, but that's another subject. And then we heard that they might have been making drugs. That justified the military coming in,
Yes, sir.
using the National Guard equipment. Well, there was no evidence of that. There was no evidence of child abuse. And the American people were turned against this guy and his followers, that they deserved what they got. Well, they didn't deserve what they got.
No, they didn't.
Okay? But that was what the average American was led to believe, thanks to our wonderful media, or mass media, telling us lies about this.
And our legislative leader, Janet Reno.
Janet Reno, who actually is an appointed, and guys like Charles Schumer, who are now a senator of New York State. His disgusting display at the Waco hearings.
Yes, I heard them. And I know what you're saying, because I do not agree with the going in and support.
Well, see, this is an indication of runaway government. If we had a constitutionally limited government with the people who understood their constitution and elected people who did that, the BATF either wouldn't exist or it'd be much smaller, and they wouldn't be able to run around the country looking upon small groups of harmless individuals to prey upon.
Well,
they would
IRS
enforce
has been
the
doing
laws.
that for years and years and years.
They have, exactly. And in fact, the ATF is so bad and so tough. They after they burnt this compound down, they run up a flag. We won. It is victory. You talk about arrogance. Okay, now they don't go after inner city gangs. They don't go after people who are really causing crimes. They go after groups like the Koresh. They go after some poor gun owner in the middle of bug tussle, some 65-year-old guy. They kick in his door. The poor guy has a heart attack. These kinds of things happen all over the country. This isn't anecdotal evidence. These are facts.
For example, there's another place that I thought was totally wrong. Innocent people were killed. A child was killed in his mother's arms. Sir, but you mentioned one thing, and it'll bring me right back to what I said to you. You said the news media. You brought that into.
Yes, I did.
Okay, that's the almighty dollar, sir. Because it's the news media. They're making.
Well, you have to remember that the primary function of a newspaper is to make money for its owner.
Yes, but the almighty dollar, sir.
Well,
but that's what it is. That's the primary function of a business, is to make money for its owner. And the ethics and the morality that follows is another matter. Now, if a newspaper owner discovers that he can make money more easily by being slightly unethical, and he's inclined in that direction, then there really isn't a whole lot that'll stop him.
Sir, this has been very interesting because I have been reading it. I'm not really, I do not have the understanding that you do, but I do understand where you're coming from when you say innocent people. That's one thing that makes me very irate with the innocent people.
We can tell you're irate. We can tell. We can tell that you're angry.
One thing I always will and always have is that I respect authority. Authority that is going to direct me in the right.
Legitimate authority should be
legitimate authority, yes.
But I still think that Janet Reno is a fall guy. I'm not an admirer of Janet Reno, never have been. But I still think she's going to be a fall guy because
whose fall guy is she? Who do you think is using her as a buffer or as a smokescreen? Who do you think that might be?
If I said, am I being a bad person?
Oh, you got to tell it like it is. This is free speech.
I think the President of the United States really had too much influence, and he was the one that elected Janet Reno, and they knew exactly what was going on.
You think Bill Clinton would do a thing like that?
Pardon me, sir. I'm not I respect him as the President of the United States, but I have no respect for him as a.
How can you respect him as a President of the United States and then have no respect for him as a man?
He is not the man I voted for. He is not the man I would want to see in office. I have no admiration for his political views whatsoever.
How do you figure a guy like that gets into office in the first place?
No, sir. People elected him, and I'm sorry to say, by voting against my own wishes, I voted for Perot, and I put him into office.
No, not really.
Oh, you think that by not voting for Clinton's opponent,
I did.
That you, by abstinence from that you in fact helped Clinton get into office?
I do.
No, you didn't. You didn't help.
That's not true.
What you did was you voted for the person you thought that was best qualified to be president.
That's the thing to do.
And that's the time. And whether or not Perot was the person, that's debatable. But you're not to be blamed. I didn't vote for the Republican candidate either. Therefore, it's not my fault Clinton's in office. It's unfortunately, the misinformed Americans who put people like this in office, and then they return them to office.
You can't really blame people for being for this particular thing because they are indeed misinformed. It's actually, in my mind, it's much worse than being misinformed. It's a matter of, we trust people to bring us candidates, to put forth candidates who are capable and worthy of the job. They are representatives of the group that they represent, in this case, the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party put this person up as their best choice for candidate for President of the United States. And they said to the American people, basically, we're the people that are in the know, and all you followers of this party, this is the guy that can do the best job, and we're going to stand behind him, and we want all you folks who've been following us all these years and generations to vote for this man because he's the best we got.
That's right.
And in that case, and in that respect, they lied to you.
I feel that we have been lied to, sir. I feel that I did not vote for him. I would not vote for him. He would be the least man on the totem pole if there were a totem pole.
Yeah.
I do have my party already.
You got a bad one coming up. Now you got to choose between the devil and the deep blue sea.
They made my choice, but they don't seem to be that popular.
Yeah, well, the next time around, what you're going to do? You're going to vote for one of the two Nebushes, or you're going to have to make a choice from all of the others, because there's going to be a lot of candidates available.
I have my platform already in my mind, but I know they're not going to make it. I like McCain, and I like his name now, Keyes, Alan Keyes.
You like Alan Keyes, huh?
I am very.
If he could keep his temper, he's quite a guy.
Is a very knowledgeable man.
Indeed, he is.
And I think McCain is a very outspoken, knowledgeable man. But people don't want these kind of people.
Mm-hmm. That's true, and you might take a closer look at Harry Brown too.
I'm taking your time. I'm sorry.
No, that's what we're here for, and we're really happy to talk with you. Harold, go on. I see you're brimming with something to say.
Yeah, well, let me make a recommendation to you and anyone else out there. We have a $5 information packet. If you would like to become more informed, we'd like to give them away free, but we do have our expenses. In this packet will be a copy of our magazine called The New American. The most recent issue has a cover story about the recent Waco story. And we'll have a monthly bulletin, position papers, pamphlets, trim bulletin. You can call 1-800-JBS-USA1. You can ask to be billed or paid by credit card, and you get yourself this packet of information, and from there you could become more informed.
I hardly recommend that. That's 1-800.
Wait, what, 1?
1-800.
Continue.
JBS.
JBS. Good.
USA 1.
USA 1.
Thank you kindly.
And I recommend this. You know, if nothing else, I want to tell you, anybody who wants to get this package, just the edification you're going to get from those samples alone is well worth the $5, which basically just covers the postage and handling and stuff.
Are they biased?
Yeah. Now, we got to take a break for a minute, and we'll be right back.
Have a good day, gentlemen.
Hey, Peter. Peter, where the heck is Mary? Did you send her out for an errand?
I don't know, Paul. I thought you did.
Well, this isn't funny, Peter. I need to have those reports I gave her by 2 o'clock, and it's 1:59. So where is she?
I told you, Paul. I don't know.
Hi, guys. I'm back.
Mary, where have you been?
Oh, I just went out to get my car washed, and it took all day. In fact, I have to go back there tomorrow because they're not done yet.
Well, you could go to Auto Image and get your car washed and the inside vacuumed while you wait. And even check out a movie on their new digital TV Dish Network.
Wow, Auto Image? Where is it?
It's located between Urso's Auto Village and D'Angelo's on Granite Street, Route 1 in Westerly.
Wait a minute, Peter. Wait a minute, Mary. How do we get a hold of her when she's out of the office? We need her at the office.
While she's at Auto Image, she can get a free pager with 1-year activation, or she can choose from one of their OmniPoint cell phones with free activation on credit or prepaid service. They also have a wide variety of accessories for beepers, cell phones, and automobiles.
Wow, sounds like they have everything. Thanks, Peter and Paul.
Auto Image, another proud contributor of WBLQ. Just tell them Peter, Paul, and Mary sent you.
Stop, oh baby, but maybe she was at the car wash. Working at the car wash, yeah.
There's a new and unique restaurant located on 84 High Street in downtown Westerly. It's appropriately called 84 High Street Cafe and Catering Company. They serve breakfast 7 days a week. Breakfast menu items include huevos rancheros, omelets, focaccia frittata, and more. 84 High Street Cafe and Catering Company serves all kinds of sandwiches and soups for lunch, and 84 High Street Cafe and Catering Company is open for dinner, Wednesday through Sunday nights. 84 High Street Cafe and Catering Company serves prime rib, barbecue chicken, New York strip steak, salads, and more. They also do catering and private parties. Their phone number is 596-7871. That's 596-7871. 84 High Street Cafe and Catering Company, 84 High Street, downtown Westerly.
Westerly Jewelry's September birthstone is the velvety midnight blue sapphire, the stone of truth and sincerity. Imported from Burma, Australia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, and Tanzania, this gemstone is purported to bestow spiritual insight, peace, and happiness. The ancients believed the earth rested on a giant sapphire, the sky reflecting its color. When King Solomon adopted the sapphire for his royal see, the stone became the symbol of wisdom and clear thinking. You can see Westerly Jewelry's selection of September's sapphires and October's birthstone, the colorful opal, available now in many styles of rings, brooches, and pendants. And if you're one of the lucky ones that received your Polish Money Contest envelope, you can stop in and find out if you're one of the winners at Westerly Jewelry, 8 High Street in the new downtown Westerly.
This segment of programming is being brought to you by J.J. Marone Sunoco, located on Route 3 in Ashaway. Every week at J.J. Marone Sunoco, 10 people each win 10 free gallons of gasoline. J.J. Marone's also has a service center where they do repairs, tune-ups, oil changes they need. Their phone number is 377-0030. That's 377-0030. J.J. Marone Sunoco, Route 3 Ashaway, another proud contributor to WBLQ's programming.
WBLQ 88.1 FM.
Now let's return to Free Speech with Bob Madden.
And here we are again. And we're here with Harold Shurtleff, the New England coordinator of the John Birch Society. And we just had a caller who was talking to us about a number of different things. We kind of got touched on a little bit of politics regarding Waco and some short stuff about the whether or not people should be allowed to tell you which trees you can cut in Charlestown, etc. And if you have any interest or any discussion you'd like to share with us, it's 322-9091. 322-9091. Harold was saying that if you'd like to get an information packet from the John Birch Society, you can call 1-800-JBS-USA-1, and you'll be fascinated with what you'll get in the mail. Under brown wrapper, of course, to protect, but you know, let me ask you a question, Harold. Because we're going to turn out we're going to be short of time here. I really, it's hard for me to believe that this time is flying so quickly. Time flies when you're having fun, but
fastest hour in radio.
Yeah, fastest hour. The society, the John Birch Society, basically, their raison d'etre, their reason for being, as it were, is to bring education to the American public. To give people an idea of what's actually going on in government, and so that you can make up your own minds as to how you want to go, because that's what Americanism is all about, is making up your own minds. Let me ask you, do the words New World Order raise any hairs on the back of your neck?
Yes, in fact, they generally do. 1990, George Bush gave a speech in front of a joint session of Congress where he announced this Operation Desert Storm. And he said it's the crucible of the New World Order, and a UN as envisioned by its founders. And, of course, sitting behind him were Foley, Vice President Quayle, and they just sat there with blank stares on their face. If I was sitting back there, my eyes would have popped out of my head.
I'd have expected blank stares from those guys.
Right. They looked like they were under heavy medication or something. My eyeballs would have popped out of my head, and I wouldn't have been able to sit still. The term New World Order is not a new term. It goes back many, many years, and I'm not going to dissect that term, except that when it was used, it was always meant to be world government and socialism. never meant some kind of laissez-faire system where everybody's
How come
free.
we hear so many references to the New World Order with regard to Clinton and Gore?
Well, we don't hear as many as we used to because it became controversial. And in a way, we had to be grateful to Bush for saying that word, because I remember getting phone calls after that speech, people apologizing to us. We thought you were wacko. We liked you guys because your positions on the Second Amendment or on taxes or this or this or that, but we didn't buy this New World Order stuff. And by heavens, they heard it right out of his mouth. And then he mentioned the UN as envisioned by its founders. We've been telling people for years the founders included Soviet agent Alger Hiss, 15 of 16 top-level Communist Party of the USA officials, the rest of which were, a lot of them were CFR Council on Foreign Relations members.
These top USA Communist Party officials. I mean, we know that the American Communist Party was founded by a fellow by, I believe, was co-founded at least by a fellow by the name of Jules Hammer.
That's right.
And yeah,
Armand Hammer's
Armand Hammer's father.
Daddy, yeah.
And you know that stuff you buy off the supermarket shelves is Armand Hammer.
Yeah, but it's not owned by that.
Did they sell that company? Yeah. It's kind of interesting that it should be Armand Hammer, because this is interesting. These people were very closely tied with Russia and Soviet socialism and so on, and the New World Order idea.
That's right.
That all of the world should come under one government head. That should be one dictator in effect of the whole world. Can you imagine that?
Well, that's what the New World Order is, and how they're going about doing it, of course, is by treaty and by, in some cases, just presidential directives. But in 1972, in the spring issue of Foreign Affairs Journal, a professor, Richard Gardner, Columbia University, and he's, you know, this old commercial, when E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen?
Yeah.
Well, when this Richard Gardner writes, people should read, because what he's writing usually happens. And Richard Gardner is not a household name, at least among most people.
The Nostradamus of the 90s, eh?
Well, he's not. He's just an insider, an intellectual insider. And he's the one that groomed Jimmy Carter to the presidency. And he said that the article was a hard road to world order. He said the frontal assault is not working. We have to have an end run. I'm quoting him verbatim now. An end run around national sovereignty, eroding it piece by piece. That is nothing more than a treasonous statement. To say that you want to...
Let's hear that again slowly.
To have an end run around national sovereignty, eroding it piece by piece.
What is that? An end run around national sovereignty?
Right.
What does that mean?
Well, he went on to explain. Because that's what happens when they write in this establishment ease. They have to use English language.
I'm trying to break it down to something we can understand.
He said we have to have treaties. And by having these treaties, treaty laws, that we're able to lose some of our sovereignty, little by little. Not all at once. And you have treaties, for example, that deal with the environment. Treaties, by the way, are not supposed to supplant basic rights, the U.S. Constitution. But most people have been taught that it does. That the treaty is the supreme law of the land. A treaty may supersede a state constitution, but it's not going to, a treaty is supposed to be an agreement between sovereign and sovereign, dealing with international issues, trade, or make sure the mail's there, or maybe armaments.
Generally, things that they wrote none of their business in the first place.
Right, and that's what Alexander Hamilton said in the Federalist Papers, that it's between sovereign to sovereign. The thought, and Hamilton said, the thought that would be to take away freedoms is unthinkable. The thought that two-thirds of the Senate and the President can do what the rest of the country cannot do is unthinkable. But the unthinkable is now becoming thinkable. And, for example, now there's some proposed treaties to do away with the Second Amendment. See, if they can't squash the Second Amendment in the U.S., then they're going to what they call a higher authority. We no longer wage wars. Now, it's a good thing we don't declare war. We don't declare war. It's not that I'm saying that war is a good thing to declare, but if we're going to fight, if we're going to send U.S. soldiers somewhere around the world, we should be able to determine that in this country. That's what the sovereignty is about. But no, we don't. Since 1945, after we accepted the UN, only 2 senators voted against the UN, by the way. They should be enshrined. Two heroic men. 2 of them had the sense to read the UN Charter. 2 men who voted against it. After the treaty became effective and we became a member of the UN, the United States Congress, both the House and the Senate, with a simple majority passed the U.S. Participation Act. What it said was basically, I'm paraphrasing, that if the president wants to send troops around the world, as long as the UN says it's okay, he can do it. That's what the Korean War was the first example. It was not a war. It was not declared, but U.S. soldiers died. They were killed. They were imprisoned. They were tortured. Places were bombed. But we weren't allowed to win that war, and MacArthur found out very quickly because the victory was in his grasp. He had victory, and as the expression goes, from the jaws of victory, they snatched defeat. And when we went to Vietnam, Vietnam was fought under an auspices of what used to be called SEATO. Again, no-win war. And McNamara came out and said there was a no-win war. The military objective was not to win. Never told us what it was. We can speculate what that was. We've had recent things here, Somalia, now Bosnia, East Timor. We were sending just a couple of hundred, but the Australian, and on it goes. These are all UN so-called police actions.
This brings up an interesting question, that everybody should face at one point or another, and that is it our responsibility to be the stretcher bearers for the rest of the world? Is it in America here, where we still have starving children and depravity and poverty and everything else, not necessarily in this neighborhood, but we have it here in America? Should we be neglecting those people, our own citizens, and getting involved in things that have been going on for centuries?
Well, you know what? I tell people who think we should, I'll say, look, I'd be happy to drive you to the nearest airport or the nearest naval base. If you want to go overseas and fight under the UN banner, and you want to go out...
Well, volunteer.
Go right ahead and go, and take your children with you. Don't take my children, and don't take my money. And I wish you well. But no, it's always...
It's not that you don't feel sorry for people that are being oppressed and murdered and tortured, and you cannot say that we don't feel sorry for these people. But charity has to begin at home.
Well, we can't be... Again, it's a big world out there. We're only 5% of the world's population. We can't be the policemen of the world. There are... And, of course, we're all very selective in this. The UN doesn't go into certain places. In communist China, where the concept of freedom doesn't even exist. We don't go into China. We don't go into Tibet, where they're raping and pillaging the nation of Tibet since the 50s. We didn't go in there. We didn't go into Afghanistan when the Red Army went in there and wiped out 15% of the population, booby-trapped toys so little children get their fingers blown off for the children. They didn't even say for the children. Why? Because somehow we have a nice love affair with those communists in the Soviet Union, so we didn't go in there.
So in fact, and I hate to break in, but in fact, it seems that at all times, since as far back as history, at all times there are places in the world where this is going on, where this is man's inhumanity to man is taking place at any moment somewhere on the earth, and there is never a time, and has never been a time, when you couldn't go out and find someone that you could protect, someone that you could stand in front of and take a bullet for.
The history of man is a history of brutality against man.
So suddenly here, when Clinton his back is up against the wall, or whatever you might want to say, and suddenly we find ourselves a couple of new wars to get into that have been going on for hundreds of years. The same wars. All of a sudden, we've got to go over there, and we've got to spend American lives. We've got to kill young men. For something that's been going on ever since time immemorial, and it's a smokescreen, isn't it?
One of Shakespeare's plays, King Henry, it wasn't King Henry V, may have been King Henry VI, he said, busy, giddy minds with foreign quarrels. That same advice is being used.
Whoa, that's a heavy one.
Yeah.
Did you get that? Busy, giddy minds with foreign quarrels. Can you translate that? That means that you should make busy.
That's right. And
keep a giddy mind. Keep someone who is in confusion busy.
Or if it's not
by getting involved with somebody else's quarrel.
If it's not a foreign quarrel, then it's a domestic quarrel that takes off the heat off a more bigger issue. The Monica Lewinsky scandal, indeed a scandal, shameful, was not nearly as big as the Chinagate scandal.
Smoke screen from Mina. That's all that was. Was a smoke screen to keep people from looking at Mina, Arkansas.
And I think that Henry Hyde did Bill Clinton the biggest service that anybody could give him when he limited the scope of the impeachment hearings to Lewinsky. That, I'm sure Clinton breathed a sigh of relief. He said, I'm home free. Well, and this was the mean right-wing extremist Henry Hyde.
He definitely got the junkyard dog off his back. Which since we're so short of time, I'm kind of skipping around here real quick because I want to get you folks out there to write this number down, 322-9091. If you've got some opinion you'd like to throw in here, that's great. But you know, the junkyard dog that I referred to was Ken Starr. And question is he a hero or a traitor? Is the guy a hero because when they kept him from digging into Whitewater, they kept him from coming up with the real gold? They blocked him in every which way, but he saw the tail of something going by, and he grabbed at it. Excuse the expression, I didn't mean the pun. But he grabbed at it and found something that he could pin on Bill Clinton, just so that he wouldn't get away totally scot-free. And Clinton saw it as an opportunity to let it go on and be a smokescreen and keep people's attention off of what they really ought to be looking at.
Yeah, I think Ken Starr isn't also the right-wing meanie as he's portrayed to be. When he was involved in the investigating the Vince Foster, he gave Clinton a clean bill of health. When the man that turns up dead in the park, there's no footprint. I mean, there's so much evidence to say the body was dumped there, and then his office was rifled and papers were taken out, and there's so many unanswered questions.
Goes on.
And he gave him a complete clean bill of health. In fact, one of his he had a Democrat in there working in this team. The guy was so disgusted he resigned. A fellow from California was so disgusted that he just resigned. And of course, he's not heard from again. The media isn't going to give him any attention. And then Ken Starr just stuck with this Lewinsky thing. He didn't go into anything deeper. And of course, he's ridiculed as $40 million for a sex book, as Congressman Moakley in Massachusetts said. Of course, you know, when liberal Democrats who spend more other people's money very fast, when they started complaining about too much money being spent, other taxpayers' money, you know there's something rotten.
Well, that's only because they found somebody else they can blame it on, and that's all. You know, we are running close, and I want to take this opportunity to thank Harold Shurtleff, the New England coordinator of the John Birch Society, for coming down this morning and talking with us, and I'm going to get him back for you guys, and hopefully you'll call up and pick his bones a little bit. And we're at 322-9091. Harold has offered you this a phone number that if you'd like to write it down, you can get a package by ordering over the telephone from 1-800-JBS-USA-1. And that'll get you a package of magazines and interesting information, including trim bulletins, and we haven't even talked about trim.
Oh, I know it, yeah.
And there's so much to talk about. It's endless. It seems that, you know, people will say, well, gee, I'm tired of this stuff. I've heard enough about Lewinsky, and I've heard enough about big government, and I'm tired, and they're counting on that.
That's right. Apathy.
They're counting on the fact that folks are going to
people give up.
Yeah, and then when you go to the polls, your mind says, I don't want to accept that. I'm going to do what I've always done, and you're going to reach for that lever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when you reach for that lever this time, hopefully with a little bit of prodding, maybe the old gray matter will kick in, and you'll say, wait a minute, there's none of the above, so I got to do something.
Right.
You know, but that seems the way we're going. Harold, are there any other numbers or bulletins or notices that you'd like to give folks in the last couple of minutes we got here?
Well, we have a local chapters in the state. We're going to be having some meetings up at the North Kingstown Library, which is in Wickford. Oh, geez, I wish I had my calendar in front of me, but I think it'll be the first Monday in October. If you want to call my office and get information about local activities, I'm in Boston, and if you can't get the number down, you can just call the John Birch Society in Boston.
Well, you can call here.
Sure. We'll call here, but I'm at 617-361-5066, and if you didn't get that, just again, call information in Boston, ask for the John Birch Society, you get my office. But we have meetings at a restaurant up in Warwick, and we hope to get something going on down here as well. We did have a meeting down here. In fact, we had a meeting down here back in January or February, and that led to, we showed a videotape on the International Criminal Court. One of the guys in attendance was a former state senator who was able to get a resolution that we proposed through the Rhode Island Senate.
Great.
Saying no to the ICC. So something like a small meeting can have a lot of ramifications. I testified at the State House back in May of this year, and every state senator voted in favor of opposing the International Criminal Court. And it may not send reverberations to the establishment, but something like this shows what dedicated people can do. Educate a lot of folks. A lot of folks know more about this subject than they did if we didn't do it.
Well, thanks again, Harold, and we appreciate it. And you folks tune us in again next week for immediately following the morning show on Friday. We'll be here again, and we'll be talking about whatever. Yes,
we are on Interconnect, by the way. I meant to mention that, Rhode Island Interconnect.
Okay.
We're on every Monday in the morning. I think it's either 11 or 12. I know they changed the times.
Rhode Island Interconnect is?
Public access cable TV.
Public access cable TV.
It's on in every town and city in the Rhode Island, and also at midnight going into Tuesday morning.
Good.
So you can catch our programs every week here in Rhode Island.
You hear that, folks? Let's do it. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week. This is Bob Madden and Free Speech.
This segment of programming is being underwritten by the Yankee Shipper in the Spindrift Village, Dunn's Corners, Westerly. At the Yankee Shipper, you can be sure your package will fly like an eagle to its destination. The Yankee Shipper is an authorized UPS and Federal Express shipping agent. In addition to that, you can send and receive your personal mail from the Yankee Shipper without any trouble. The Yankee Shipper also provides document services, typing, and copying. At the Yankee Shipper, you can check out their new art gallery with all kinds of local art. The Yankee Shipper is conveniently located in the Spindrift Village in Dunn's Corners, Westerly. The Yankee Shipper also provides faxing and courier service. Their fax number is 322-0940. Their phone number is 322-7363. That's 322-7363. The Yankee Shipper, the friendly shipper, bringing you this segment of programming on 88.1 WBLQ.
I wanna fly like an eagle to the sea.
Louis Pensiero Insurance, located in the Washington Trust Building, downtown Westerly, are the professionals you can rely on when it comes to all of your insurance needs. Larry Vetolino and the staff at Louis Pensiero Insurance treat you with prompt, courteous, and professional service. Now at Louis Pensiero Insurance, there's a new program out for contractors, including masonaries, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, all kinds of contractors. For more information, you can call 596-4977. That's 596-4977. Louis Pensiero Insurance also provides auto, home, life, health, disability, workman's comp, and all other kinds of insurance. Again, their phone number is 596-4977. Louis Pensiero Insurance.
The National Radon Test is about to begin. Answer true or false. Radon can penetrate a concrete block. True. You can protect yourself from radon by wearing a gas mask. True. New homes can be built to protect your family from radon. True. Some people are immune to radon. False. When buying a home, you should always make sure it's been tested for radon. True. The Office of the Surgeon General strongly advises all homes be tested for radon. True. Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer. True. You can call 1-800-SOS-RADON to find out how to get your family's home tested and made safer. True.
A public service message from the Consumer Research Council and this station.
From the station that cares, WBLQ.
WBLQ 88.1 FM.
And now let's return for our final segment of Free Speech with Bob Madden.
Just winding up here this morning, reminding you folks that it's free speech on Friday morning, and we want to talk about whatever's on your mind. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything political or even anything other than just simply something of interest. If you have a question of any kind, give us a call, and it's 322-9091. Today we had Harold Shurtleff, New England coordinator of the John Birch Society, and he's going to be back to see us again. Looking forward to it. In the meanwhile, he can be contacted, or his organization can be contacted for information at 1-800-JBS-USA-1. Any other questions? Today we talked about a little bit about Waco and a little bit about Charlestown and a little bit about governmental philosophies and points of view and approaches and whether or not we should get involved in wars overseas. And there's a wealth of things to be discussed. And the important thing is to keep an open mind and to listen and to speak your mind. Say what's on your mind. Clear yourself. It's better in most cases than just to bottle it up and say, well, I've heard enough. That's not going to help anybody anyhow. So this is Bob Madden with Free Speech on WBLQ.
This is news from 88.1 W.